Good morning. Today I'm here to tell you a little bit about a really common recipe in my home region. I'm originally from rural North Carolina, and if you haven't ever been in kind of the mountains of North Carolina, a very common part of that landscape is apple trees. So apples are a pretty inexpensive but also pretty delicious, staple for Appalachian North Carolinian cuisine. So my grandmother, my sister, my great-grandmother, they all, as a kind of coming of age recipe as they were teenagers, coming into young women, was to learn an apple recipe. And most, young women would choose apple recipes that were like apple pies or things like that, but I'm really bad at baking. So my apple recipe is another traditional recipe, but which isn't so sweet. I actually make apple cider vinegar. Super easy. All you're gonna need are 4 ingredients today. Let's get started. One thing I really love about apple cider vinegar is that it's also a really great way to reduce your waste. So by that, I mean if you have a lot of food waste, like apple cores or apple peels, you can really get your money's use out of them, and it's better for the environment. So here I have an apple core from an apple that I ate for breakfast just this morning, and I have it in a clean jar that I'm also repurposing. But any jar you use, make sure that you sanitize it, that you clean it out, or it will negatively impact the fermentation. We need this process to be as clean as possible. That's also why sometimes it's great to use organic apples if you happen to buy them anyway. If you don't, just make sure to clean your apples really, really well if you're using apple peels before you put them in here. So you have your apple core, your apple peels. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put just some plain water. I like to use plain water, but you can use filtered if you would like to. Pour in enough water so that it covers up your apple, and your apple may bob a little bit, that's fine. Then this is not necessary for the fermentation at all, but it's just kind of like a good luck symbol where I'm from. If you want to kind of give yourself a little good luck and make your life a little sweeter, you can put just a smidge of ground cinnamon in here, just a tiny, tiny bit. And that will kind of float on the top, and I think it makes the end result smell even better. Again, this isn't necessary, but I like to use just a little bit of it. I think it makes the smell of the apple cider vinegar turns out better at the end. A little tiny bit of salt, so just a dash of salt. So that's all you need. Really all you need is you only really need apples, apple cores, apple peels, and water. And so we have our apple mix here. You mix it up. And then you do need a 5th ingredient, but the 5th ingredient is patience. You're going to put this in a dark place, and you are going to, every day, you are going to open the lid. That's called burping it. That's just so over time the gases and other kind of like built up gas that's coming from this fermentation process that can come out. Otherwise, especially if you're using like a non-plastic container, it can like explode if it builds up too much. So you can see I don't actually have this filled up all the way. That's because what I like to do is I like to, every morning if I have an apple for breakfast, I like to put those apple cores in and kind of fill it up with water as I go. So eventually, in a couple days, maybe by the end of this week, I will have enough apple cores and enough water to fill up this whole container. After you've filled up your whole container, maybe with like, half an inch, a quarter of the inch at the top still with a little room to spare, then put this in kind of a cold, or as much cold as Florida, maybe like the inside of your closet, dark place. Let it sit there for a couple weeks, check on it every day or every so, just to make sure that it's coming along, to make sure that all of your apples, like nothing's getting moldy or anything. Then when it's done, You can filter out the water, or at that point it'll be apple cider vinegar. It'll take on a nice, beautiful golden hue. You can filter that out. You can put it in an airtight container, and then you can use it for whatever you want. Some people use it for recipes. I like to use it for cleaning. So thank you for listening in, and I hope you decide to use this zero waste, super cheap recipe. Goodbye.